Hear ye, hear ye. Welcome to the Joy Reid Show. Welcome to everybody that is listening on YouTube. I can see the YouTube chat has already begun. We have Lemon Nation, always the early birdies in the house. There they are. We have arrived. The Lemon Nation in the house, as well as our wonderful readers. Big up to everyone who's watching, not just on YouTube, but also on Substack, on Facebook. If you're a LinkedInie, we're still coming up with a great name for you guys, but you're LinkedInies to me until we figure out something better. Okay, that's what we're doing. And also, if you're listening on an audio podcast platform, we appreciate you too. We just appreciate you all taking the time midweek to spend some time with us. Don't wait. Go ahead. And yes, our Twitchies. Oh, how can I forget my lovely Twitchies on Twitch? Hello, Twitchies. A small but mighty army on the Twitchster. We appreciate that. If you guys could just start out before you even know if you like it. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe because you know you're going to like it. I mean, and then you can also hit the little bell thing so that you, like all of our early birdies, can make sure that you're always aware that we're going to be going live. Let me jump right in and let you know that this show tonight, the Joy Reid Show, is being brought to you by our friends at 120 Life. You know what month it is. It's June. It's not just Pride Month. It's not just Black Music Month. It's also the month when your whole fitness routine slides because you like, it's hot. I'm sitting by the pool. I'm chilling. I'm not necessarily eating what I'm supposed to be eating. I'm drinking not what I'm supposed to be drinking. You know how it goes. And so those routines kind of fall by the wayside. But guess what doesn't take a vacation? High blood pressure. It never takes the summer off. Nearly half of all adults have high blood pressure. Many don't even know until they're in trouble, right? Until it's too light. Blood pressure is actually the number one risk for mortality. So that's why June is a perfect time to stop guessing, stop playing around, and start measuring before the summer gets away from you. So check your numbers and start a simple daily routine that can actually help you do something about it and get those blood pressure numbers down. One of the ways you can do it, 120 Life. I'm going to show you both of the two versions because they're both pretty awesome. 120 Life is a once-a-day functional drink made with ingredients that help support healthy blood pressure. You drink it, you check your numbers. And for a lot of people, they see improvement in as little as 2 weeks. You try for 14 days. If your numbers don't go down, you get a full refund. Tastes amazing. It's made from super fruit juices. It fits into your normal life. It's not like a weird like guru thing. It's like a normal thing you can fit into your normal life and get your blood pressure numbers down. So here it is. The powdered version has just... it is very, very low sugar, just 1 gram of sugar. Or you can do the liquid version, which tastes great ice cold when you come out of the gym, in case you're doing the gym thing. All right, so if you want to try it, go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. Use my code JOY or the code REID for 20% off. Try it risk-free for 2 weeks. If your blood pressure doesn't come down, you get a full refund. 120life.com. Use the code JOY or REID to save 20%. Do not wait till next month. You have nothing to lose except those high blood pressure numbers. These statements have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Okay, let's jump right in. So last night, I, like many of you, was probably watching the election results, jumping back and forth between everyone who was keeping track. New York Times is keeping track. Of course, Kornacki, the Kornackster, keeps track now. He's on NBC News. We're watching that. And we're just sort of watching CNN, just sort of watching everything come down. And I was also on the Maryland Division of Elections website, which I'm going to show you later in the day, counting all that down. So we are going to talk about the elections in hour 2, including the results in Maryland and New York. There was also Utah and the South Carolina runoffs. So we're going to get into that later in the show. Excited that Darializa, who was supposed to be on with us last night, will be on with us tonight. Very excited to talk with her. She is the new rising star who unseated the head of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in a huge election last night. We're also going to talk with two of the plaintiffs. I guess you call them plaintiffs, in a case where they're going at Todd Blanche and challenging his law license based on some of the shenanigans he's pulling off. And we're going to talk about some of these really nefarious legal cases that we're seeing that involve young Black men who were either killed or accused of murder and how those are playing out versus other folks. So that's coming up in hour 2 and later on in hour 1. But I want to start with where a lot of people are. If you look at the news cycle, a lot of people are talking about, of course, the swamp. Donald Trump's need to drain the swamp, meaning the swamp he made, aka the reflecting pool. If Jason can show a little clip of it, that is what it looks like. It is full of green, gross algae, and the entire American flag blue floor is coming up. I literally this morning was listening online as pool experts, like the people who do those pool shows. Jason, by the way, good evening. And I know Jason loves watching those pool shows.
What's that?
So you know the pool, people from the big pool shows that are on HGTV are now being called in as experts on like TMZ and other sites and other companies in order to talk about the pool. That's how important this pool thing is to so many in the mainstream media. And
that's why they say if you're going to do something, do it with professionals. Don't use your friends, because your friends, you got to make excuses for them when they mess stuff up. So they got professionals to do it.
Especially the guy who looks like he's coming from the mob.
Oh my goodness. He looks like he's a penguin from a DC comic book.
He does. He looks like a DC comic
book. But anyway, before I go, hey fam, how y'all doing?
How you doing? So that's what happened. So that is the thing. But that disgusting grossness is now Donald Trump has to drain it. They have to drain it, literally drain the $16 million swamp. And that's what's going on. And Donald Trump is lying about what happened. He told the media that what happened was not that he hired an incompetent person, but that vandals, unnamed vandals, somehow swooped in to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool and cut a giant, first he said 200 foot, and then he said a 350 foot gash, literally with a knife, cut a gash in it. And that's why it's full of algae and why it's green and stinks. It's not because he screwed it up. So and literally the media is now like playing detective. They're like the young detectives that are out there trying to run this story down because Trump said it. That's how the mainstream media works. If he says something, they have to behave as if this is a legitimate news story. So they're sending their best. Like they're sending the big, top White House reporters down to figure out something that you could literally just submit a Freedom of Information Act request for the video. All of the Capitol, all of that part of the district is got their cameras. Just submit a Freedom of Information Act request for the cameras. You'd be able to see if there were these nefarious vandals, if they showed up and did anything to the pool. It'd be easy enough to do that, but they're not doing that. They're sending actual humans. Here's one of them. ABC sent Jonathan Karl. Here's part of his report.
$1 million was spent to drain this whole thing and to paint the bottom American flag blue, was the color he said, to make it reflect more magnificently. As you can see, it's all green now. They know that. They're trying to kill the algae. But as they're doing that, something else has happened. Check this out. That American flag blue paint, it's peeling away. The $14 million job to redo the bottom of this reflecting pool is falling apart before our eyes. The algae is still here, but the paint appears to be going away.
Okay, so for that, apparently DC state attorney and former Fox News day drunk lady, Jeanine Pirro, is claiming she's considering prosecuting that guy, Jonathan Karl, for touching the blue paint. So maybe he's the vandal. I don't know if they're accusing him of being the one who cut the so-called slash. I don't know, but she's not saying she won't prosecute him, because of course this is another distracting story. We're going to prosecute Jonathan Karl, yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, nearly half a dozen people have literally already been arrested for touching the water. And the National Guard, if Jason could throw this clip up, they have erected barriers around the new DC swamp to stop future pretend vandals from touching the water. And literally the National Guard is stopping anyone who comes near that pool, even kids, even children, from touching the water, because everyone has to pretend like when Donald Trump claims that vandals that exist only in his addled brain are the reason that the pool is messed up, because it can't be him, of course. Everyone has to treat that as if that's a real story that has to be run down by the top journalists, and you have to put up a barricade to make sure that future vandals don't also not be to blame for the pool being full of green slime. So that's what it is. I mean, it's a great distraction, of course. And I'm sure that the Trump regime hates this story. I'm sure Trump hates it, but it's a nice distraction from the fact that Trump started a dumb war that he promptly lost to Iran while killing hundreds of schoolgirls, not just of thousands, hundreds of schoolgirls and thousands of Iranians, while allowing Israel to start its second genocide in 3 years. And gas prices are up, food prices are up, housing prices are soaring. But Trump won't do anything about any of that because he actually doesn't know how to. Oh, yeah. And yesterday, the Senate passed a war powers resolution ordering Trump to pull the U.S. military forces out of the conflict with Iran, rebuking Trump. The resolution passed 50-48 with Republican Senators Rand Paul, Susan Collins, who may soon be losing her seat to Graham Plattner, plus Lisa Murkowski and Louisiana's Bill Cassidy, crossing over to vote with all the Democrats, except, of course, the very corrupt and very idiotic John Fetterman, who, of course, voted with Trump, as he always does. Let's hear two members of Congress on all this. Let's start with soon-to-be retiring North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who I should note did not vote to end the war with Iran.
parallel universe that I just wake up in. You're telling me, even if it proves to be true, that damaging a lining in the reflecting pool is something that Puro wants to prosecute to the full extent of the law, if it's proven true, and yet they're releasing people who pled guilty to assaulting a police officer?
Yes, Tom Tillis, that is the hell that you've woken up in. We're all living in it with you. One more clip before we get to our guest, because yeah, Tom Tillis is even like, what in the hell? One more clip before we get to our wonderful guest. Trump canceled a signing ceremony for a bipartisan housing bill. They're very rare to get a bipartisan bill out of this Congress, which is supposed to allow both political parties to go into November, into the midterms, claiming that they're actually doing something about high housing prices. But Trump wants to stick in the failed SAVE Act. He wants to marry that failed SAVE Act. He wants to stick that onto the bill to try to steal the midterms by confiscating the voter rolls of blue and purple states. So he says he's not signing the bill, which of course sounds like a power move, except that the bill will become law anyway in 10 days because he didn't actually veto the bill. He just says he won't sign it and have a signing ceremony. And per Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, which maybe Trump should read, or someone who's a better reader could read to him, the Constitution says the bill becomes law anyway if you don't veto it, Donald. But, you know, nice distraction. According to California Congressman Ted Lieu, maybe from more than just election fears of the reflecting pool swamp. Here's Ted Lieu.
Aguilar. Inflation is up. Grocery prices are up. Utility costs are up. Housing prices are up. We have a bipartisan housing bill that both the Congress and Senate passed. There was supposed to be a big signing ceremony today in the Capitol, and then all of a sudden, Donald Trump decides he's not coming to sign the bill. Well, why is that? Did he wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Is he unable to stay awake today? What's causing him to chicken out again? Is it Taco Wednesday? Or is it side effects from a drug? We don't know. This erratic behavior of the president is very concerning. He has trouble staying awake at multiple White House events and cabinet meetings. He has clearly some weakness in one of his arms. He's got swelling in his hands. And the White House needs to come clean. What we know is there's a report saying that one person in America got this special new drug. It was a 79-year-old person who was very high profile. And this drug can only be given to someone under the compassionate use provision, meaning you do that if someone basically has a terminal illness. So we need to know, did Donald Trump get this special drug from Eli Lilly? And did he get it under that provision? And if he did, why is that the case?
Ted Lieu is just asking questions. Everyone, join me now with somebody who maybe could answer some of them. Mary L. Trump is an American psychologist and author. Her first book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man, which came out in 2020, sold nearly 1 million copies on its first day of publication, including to me. She is the author of 2 other amazing New York Times bestsellers, The Reckoning and a memoir, Who Could Ever Love You? She writes The Good in Us, a best-selling newsletter on Substack, and she's the founder of Mary Trump Media and the Mary Trump Media YouTube channel. Mary Trump, it's so good to have you. Welcome to your debut on the Joy Reid Show.
Joy Reid, I can't believe it took so long. It's so good to see you. I want that shirt also. So I'm going to have to, yes, it's awesome. Yeah, this is such a pleasure for me. I, of course, have been following everything you've been doing, and it is just an honor to be here.
Thank you. And I have to, before we even get to the meat of our conversation, I have to show this picture. Mary, I have been interviewing Mary L. Trump since 2016, but we only met in person for the first time on last week at the amazing Jane Fonda event, Rise Up and Sing. Here is our cute little picture together. So it is great to have actually finally gotten a chance to see you in person and your beautiful wife. It was so much fun. So
it really was.
Let's talk about this situation. So Ted Lieu implied that your Uncle Donald is actually ill. I mean, his cankles are very swollen. He's got weird marks on his hand, including what looked almost like a bite through his hand, through one of his hands. To your knowledge, is he physically ill?
Well, I don't have any more insight into that than anybody else, but I have eyes in my head, you know. I don't think that we can pretend anymore that all is well. Also, I had to say, it's great to hear Ted Lieu talking like that, but I think you and I and others have been saying for years now that that is exactly how people need to confront Donald Trump on a daily basis. And yet, until recently, people continue to pull punches. So I have to be honest, as bad as his physical appearance is, and it does suggest this is not an ad hominem attack. I'm just saying, as you said, his cankles are cankling. His hands look terrible. They're swollen, they're bruised. He is incapable of staying awake. He's incapable of focusing on anything. His new thing is to tell people that nobody's interested in what they're talking about. And that I guess only happens if they're not talking about him. So that is, all of those are bad signs in terms of his potential physical ailments. And of course, some of those, like the hypersomnia and the lack of impulse control, are also potential signs of cognitive decline. As many of you know, Alzheimer's runs in my family. Hopefully it's going to skip my generation, but it does run in my family. And I see similarities between my grandfather's behavior and Donald's behavior, my grandfather being Donald's dad. But we're dealing with a perfect storm here of psychological, emotional, physical, and cognitive decline. Because for those who don't know, Donald has long-standing, like decades-long, severe, undiagnosed, untreated psychiatric disorders on top of everything else.
And those psychiatric disorders, we've had Dr. John Gardner on, who's talked about the fact that he is a clinical narcissist. He's got narcissistic personality disorder, which you've talked about as well. Yeah. As you said, he's sundowning. He's got, as did your grandfather, early Alzheimer's. He at least appears to have that. But beyond narcissistic personality disorder, you as a psychologist, what else do you see going on there?
Well, technically diagnosis is a process. So I can't diagnose him. He's not my patient. And also he needs to go through a very lengthy battery of tests. But I think my position on this is, one, there's certainly a lot of comorbidity going on, which means that it's not just one thing. But more to the point, I think we're beyond having that matter anymore. How is he behaving?
Yeah.
And the ways in which he is behaving are increasingly alarming. I hear a lot of former allies saying that they don't recognize him anymore. Can I swear?
Yes, you can. We are not on broadcast news, nor can we be fined by the FCC.
I just always like to check. It's bullshit that he's different. What's happening is because of this perfect storm of decline, Donald is revealing who he's always been. And that's part of his issue right now. He's lost control of not just himself, but of the narrative he's been spinning about himself since the 70s. So I think that it's just revelatory. And we need to understand that, because this is not about, we can't allow people to make excuses for him. And we can't allow anybody in this corrupt fascist Republican Party to pretend that Donald's the problem, because they've known all of this. So Tom Tillis, he's waking up into the hell we've all been living in. He helped create this hell. Mm-hmm.
He did. All of them did. The enablers, they all have seen it. I mean, those of us who've been watching and disliking your Uncle Donald since the 80s, and I am one of them who's never been a fan because of the way he treated the Central Park Five. But I've always seen the cruelty and the meanness. People sort of waking up to it like it's new. What is new to me is this almost, when he was in the 80s and 90s, it was clear he was desperate to build a legacy. He wanted lots of things named after him. He wanted everything to be called Trump Tower, Trump Park, Trump this, Trump that. Yeah. Slapping his name on things was very important to him. But I see an increased desperation to name almost everything, from airports to putting his face on the money. It almost feels like he sees his demise in the very near future, and he's trying to sort of like make a heaven on earth for himself because he doesn't think he'll get into heaven. Do you see that?
It's a really fascinating point. And I would suggest that from the beginning, slapping his name, the family name, really, because it was my grandfather's fortune and connection and savvy that made the Trump name something that was valuable in New York real estate. It was about bolstering what has always been a very fragile ego and helping him avoid the reality that he's nothing that he's claimed to be. He was never a self-made man. He was never a savvy, brilliant entrepreneur or real estate guy. So like I didn't, one, I don't think I really thought about it much, but after my grandfather died, I realized something essential, that my grandfather really cared about legacy. But as soon as humanly possible after my grandfather died, Donald insisted to his siblings that they sell my grandfather's entire empire because he needed the cash. So that got me thinking, what does he care about? And I think you're absolutely right. There is this sense of accelerating desperation that he put his imprint on everything, maybe as a way of staving off his mortality. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is Donald's a nihilist. And I think the putting his name on things is a way to pretend that maybe things aren't going badly for him. It's a way for him to fill a void because, and I don't mean to be reductive here, but one of the main reasons we're at this point is because Donald has never been loved. And the thing he's most wanted in his life is to be loved. And that's a void he can't fill. So he'll just keep putting his name on things. He'll get richer. He'll get more power. Nothing is going to make him feel better, though. So his being a nihilist means that he doesn't actually believe that anybody can or should exist beyond him, which makes him very dangerous because as he's losing it, and we see it happening, he is not going to be able to protect himself from the massive amounts of humiliation he's going to feel as soon as he recognizes that he is an incompetent loser, right? And if he thinks he's going down, I don't think he's going to have any compunction about trying to take us down too.
Yeah, I mean, what Donald Trump, maybe deep down has to understand, and maybe one day will come to understand, is that the moment he's gone, everything that he has placed his name on, the name will be removed, just like the Kennedy Center. I mean, he put a tarp over it so no one can see his shame of having his name taken off the Kennedy Center. But those who oppose his fascist regime want his name removed from everything. We want him to disappear from history. We want him to be erased from history. We don't want anyone to ever remember him. And that is his biggest fear, right? That no one will ever remember him.
It is, it's difficult to understand the narcissistic wounds, the depth of the narcissistic wounds he's suffering and the terror he's feeling. I mean, Donald has always been a terrified little boy. He's never been more terrified than he is right now, because again, he's losing control, and he's also losing control a lot of a lot of the people who have previously been his supporters, and he knows it. On some very deep level, he knows it, and unfortunately for him, that stuff is starting to break through to his consciousness. Because remember, he has spent his entire adult life protecting himself from the reality of who he is. And that's becoming increasingly difficult, if not impossible. And someday it will be impossible, and he'll realize what people really think of him. And, for anybody saying, we've spent way too much, wasted way too much in taxpayer dollars, putting his name on things, building things in his honor, like a ballroom and an arch, and we shouldn't spend any more money to take it off. Well, I'm not suggesting that we should. I'm suggesting that every penny he and his useless children have stolen from the American people be returned, and we use that money to erase them and them.
So if people have got it, first of all, you guys have got to read Mary's book. The first one was so good. I mean, they're all great, but that first one is so revelatory because it really comes through that your grandparents did not love their children and didn't know how to show them any love. So that's what you're saying, right? That Donald's parents, that your grandparents did not love your dad, did not love your aunts, and did not love him.
I think the greatest indictment of my grandparents is that they had 5 children, and in very different ways, every single one of them was a destroyed human being. Now, my grandmother is a separate issue, but my grandfather was the one with all of the power in the family. He was a sociopath. So that's a real big disadvantage to start your life at. And the only thing literally that mattered to him was money. And he taught his other children that lesson too. Thankfully, my dad wasn't like that, but Donald certainly was. And he turned my entire family into a zero-sum game. There could only be one person. And my grandfather, for reasons that I still don't completely understand, picked Donald. And over the course of my grandfather's life, he threw $410 million at Donald, all of which he squandered. And also, though, created a man who cares nothing about nothing but money, and who thinks that money stands in for everything else. The amount of money you have means that, is your worth as a human being. It means love. It means all of the other things. And of course, that's not true. So that's why, not to quote myself, that's why it's never enough.
Yeah. And you can see that in his adult children, right? They're scrambling for cash all the time because that's all they can get, is they have to show their father that they are rich, and they're rich off of nepotism. They're not rich off of hard work.
Well, that and robbing the American taxpayer blind. So
there you go.
Yeah.
I have to play a clip for you, which is, I've never understood why he does this. It's so weird. And I'm like, maybe Mary can explain this to me. Jason, if you could roll A6. It's so weird. He does it a lot.
Yes, sir. And the mother's screaming, "Darling, I love you, darling." And the father's looking, saying she has no chance. And she's like this, you see it? Drops him. And she's like devastated.
What is that? It's like what is that?
Wow. That seems like some kind of very deep part of his psyche playing out some memory that he wishes he didn't have access to. I don't know. I mean, I'll try to explain that. But what I would also like, though, is for people who support him to explain that.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, that's presidential behavior. Well, yes, it is, because Donald is in the White House now. But there's something so pathological about that. And it's fascinating. He's talking about a mommy and a daddy. And clearly something's going wrong with the mother. And the father's like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. It sounds like my grandparents' house. It sounds like, it's so disturbed. And I think part of what's adding to his stress and his decline is that he is reliving some things from his childhood, which, and again, I don't at all mean to create any sense of compassion for him, but he had a very difficult childhood. And in fact, it's what led us here. His developmental history was not going to lead to a well-adjusted, healthy human being. So I think he is beset by these memories of horrors that make him act like that on a stage in front of millions of people. It is just another sign that he doesn't have any control over himself or what people are saying or thinking about him anymore. And I think for him, he's beginning not to have control over what he thinks of himself either. So that's got to be terrifying.
Former President Obama has said in a podcast, he did a recent podcast interview, and he said, finally broke his silence about Donald Trump and said Donald Trump is obsessed with him, which I think is obvious, right? Yeah. What is it down to? Is it because President Obama is Black and he's jealous that a Black man is beloved and was a successful president and is beloved around the world and has everything he wants? Is it just racism? Like, what do you put his just obsession with the Obamas down to?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's racism because Donald he's not racist. He is a racist, which is a distinction I make. Many white Americans are racist because it's kind of drilled into us, forever, especially if we grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But to be a racist is a choice, right? And it's an ideology. And I mean, he comes by it honestly. My grandparents were racist too, or racists too. But I think more fundamentally, it is, as you say, because it's specific to President Obama and his accomplishment, the fact that in every metric, Barack Obama, and I don't want to say he's an infinitely superior being because that suggests that Donald has any redeeming qualities. By every metric, Obama blows him out of the water. But there's something even more fundamental, and it's that Barack Obama humiliated him publicly in 2011 at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Donald cannot handle humiliation. It is literally the worst feeling he can feel, especially when it's inflicted by somebody he, in his depraved little mind, thinks is inferior simply because of the color of his skin. So, we see it increasingly with journalists. They ask fact-based questions that don't fit the story he wants to spin, and he can't handle that. But if a powerful Black man is humiliating him in front of millions of people, that's all he needs. And because of that, he has done everything in his power to undo President Obama's legacy. And unfortunately, thanks to this fascist Republican Party, he has succeeded in a lot of those. And that's one of the reasons where he started this illegal, unconstitutional war of choice in Iran, because he ripped up the JCPOA.
Yeah. And it is such a strange world in which, I think all the presidents, Bill Clinton had, daddy issues and they kind of played out in front of us. And I think all the presidents, whatever they bring to the table is what we deal with when they are president. But with Trump, the thing that's so weird about his Obama obsession is that it's something like every bully he can only do from a distance. Like he can post a picture of repost a picture of the Obamas as monkeys. But when he's sitting next to Barack Obama, he seemed to suck up to him. Like he was desperate to talk to him at the Carter funeral. Like it's a weird dichotomy, right? Like in his presence, he acts like a fan, same way he does with Donny. What's that about?
It's because he is a bully, and bullies are inherently weak. Donald is the weakest person I've ever met in my life. So it's really easy to take pot shots against people who are strong and much more beloved than you are from a distance. But in his presence, he, and this is probably also something that fuels his rancor. He probably, in Barack Obama's presence, admires him. And that probably really messes with his head.
Yeah. Two more questions. One on the Epstein files. Donald Trump appears in the Epstein files more than everyone except Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
He appears in the Epstein files more than Jesus appears in the Bible, his name. Do you think, just looking at it as somebody who, grew up knowing him, for better or for worse, do you think that he did the things that some women have claimed when they were children he did to them? Do you think that he did things that would technically make him a pedophile?
Now, obviously, I have no inside knowledge of any of this, but a couple of things. First of all, always believe the women. That's the premise from which I start, whether it's Donald or Jeffrey Epstein or anybody else or Eric Swalwell, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is, we're not stupid. There's a reason somebody shows up in the Epstein files. I think Jamie Raskin, Representative Raskin said over 1 million times, but as you said, more times than anybody but Jeffrey Epstein. It's extraordinarily unlikely. The chances that that's innocent every single time are vanishingly slim. So there's that. Plus, of course, only half of the documents have been released. And because the most corrupt attorney general in United States history is running the show, preceded by the second most corrupt attorney general, first Todd Blanche, then preceding him,
Pamela Jo Bondi. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure you're well aware of her. We have no doubt, or we shouldn't doubt, that they're withholding the worst stuff.
Yeah.
Secondly, Donald is a misogynist who has independently been accused by at least 23 women of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual assault. and a jury of his peers found him an adjudicated rapist. So, let's see. And to help prove our point, he has done everything in his power to make sure those files weren't released after promising during the election that he would. So I think we can draw certain conclusions about that. If he isn't guilty, I've never seen anybody act more guilty.
I have kept you far too long. I appreciate it. I'm going to bring every second I can out of. I hope you will come back, Mary Trump. Before I let you go, please tell everyone where they can follow you. I'm advising everyone to please subscribe to the Mary Trump YouTube channel and obviously to your Substack, The Good in Us. What are you doing next?
Well, my wife Rhonda and I just started a new PAC called Mary Trump's Transcend PAC. So I encourage everybody to go to the website. We literally just launched about a week and a half ago, and on Donald's birthday, because we thought that was fun. So our mission is to do everything in our power to find and support candidates who understand what's at stake in this country, which, by the way, is everything, and who have the courage and the tenacity to meet the moment and are not going to capitulate to special interests, and are going to promise accountability for all of the bad actors who have done so much harm to this country, and who finally are going to help us, promise us that they will use their power as leaders to create in this country a multicultural democracy that we have aspired to but never managed to become. So that is, in a nutshell, our mission. So it would be awesome if people check that out.
I love it. Well, we are going to support that mission. We're going to get the link out to that as well. Just make sure that we have that link so that we can spread it far and wide. Please say hello to Rhonda. She's awesome. And it was great finally getting to hang out with you in person. We have to do it for real again with drinks sometime soon.
Absolutely. It was so lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you very much. That is Mary L. Trump, one of the interviews we have wanted most to do on this program. She is terrific. She is just as great in person as she is on the screen, through the screen. All right, let's take another quick ad break before we get to our next segment. This program, the Joy Reid Show, is brought to you by, this is a new one, a fabulous one, our friends at Mudwater. Okay, so let me talk to you about this. You know, I got to have a hot drink. I'm Caribbean, so you have to have a hot drink in the morning and a hot drink before you go to bed at night. It is just what we do. And I unfortunately very much became a coffee addict. I need that coffee to just pep me up in the morning. It's a great start to your morning, but it's not always something that's great for your health. Can make you jittery if you have too much of it, all of that. So leave it to my sore sister, cousin, friend, super vegan Jackie Reid to suggest that I give Mudwater a try. And I did. So what is Mudwater? Here it is. I'm going to show you their version number 1. It is a coffee alternative made with mushrooms and adaptogens. About 1/7 the caffeine of coffee. So you get all the focus and all the energy without the jitters, the crash, or the anxiety. And listen, it is so delicious and the perfect switch up for your morning cup. There are actually 4 flavors. So there's the OG, that's this one. This is the original chai chocolate brand. So it tastes like coffee. Let me make sure I'm showing you the right front side of it. But it's like not real coffee. It's fabulous. It's really delicious. There's also an amazing chai version. Winsome likes this one. If you're a chai fan, you can try that one as well. There's also something in between that's it's almost like a hot cocoa, which tastes like hot cocoa. And then there's a turmeric version, which is also delicious as well. And here's another little cute thing about it is they also have this little whip thing. So here it is. This is the box. And then this is like the little whip. This is pretty cool. You take this and you take it out and you can like put this in your coffee and you go, brrr, and then it turns your coffee into like you literally just came from the barista. It is actually amazing. So you can make yourself a soothing hot morning thing, or you can make yourself a soothing, delicious evening thing. It is the best. The best way to start is to start with the starter kit. It's designed to set you up with everything that you need to actually build the habit. When you order, you get the full size tin of your chosen blend, plus this frother. Okay, when you get the starter kit, they send you the frother, which is pretty cool. So you can froth yourself up and make it fabulous, as well as free gifts and free shipping. So if you want to try it, you want to make the switch to cleaner energy, go to mudwater.com. That's MUDWTR.com/joy and grab the starter kit. Use the code JOY and you will get 43% off. 43% off. That's almost half. The frother alone is worth the whole thing. Okay, so that's right. Up to 43% off with the code JOY at mudwtr.com/joy. After your purchase, they're going to ask how you found them. Please show your support for the Joy Reid Show. Let them know that we're the ones who sent you. Listen, it's a game changer. Okay, so thank you, Jackie Reid, for putting me onto it, and Mudwater for sponsoring the show. So a very quick reminder of who your new interim attorney general is. It is B1.
Top law enforcement official right now. Would you be okay with people who were convicted of hurting police getting taxpayer money?
Just to be clear, people that hurt police get money all the time.
General Bunce, can you confirm if this Justice Department is investigating Gavin Newsom? And if the president directed you to do this? He says it's being weaponized against him. Did the president tell you to investigate Gavin Newsom?
It is clear in Justice this part of the interview that she continues to push all of the investigation and the blame on acting AG Todd Blanche. She said, and I quote, "Acting AG Blanche was managing the entire investigation," end quote.
Well, do I believe it's a possibility that the Democrats will go after President Trump, his family, anybody that knows him, anybody that worked for him? I think they've proven that to be true. And what can we do about it is we can just keep on exposing. When we learn about the weaponization that happened for many years, we can keep on exposing it and putting roadblocks in place so it never happens again.
Let me go back to this slush fund, because there's also an individual who, after being pardoned by the president, went on to molest 2 children. And that person actually tried to buy the silence of these children by saying that he would pay them some of the funds that he was hoping to get from your slush fund. Can you commit to making the rules so that that person is not eligible for a payout under this fund?
Well, you're obviously lying in your question, because there's no way that this person committed to that. Because the slush fund, as you call it, which is not, didn't exist.
I'm sure,
but I can commit.
Mr. Attorney General, don't ever do that again. I am reporting
what again?
What he said. He said on the expectation that he hoped to get some of the funds from a payout. He's been
from
hearing
you said from the slush fund, Senator, and that didn't exist when he said that.
This is the fund that the president and all of you have been telegraphing all along that you're going to use to help the president's friends.
Can you point to
Mr.
a single
Attorney General,
telegraph
I have a
I
last
made?
question.
What telegraph did I
have a last question for you. Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Ooh. It should come as no surprise to you that that man, Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former criminal attorney, who's now the acting attorney general, has drawn a bar complaint. Lawyers Defending American Democracy, a group in partnership with Democracy Defenders Fund, have filed a 69-page comprehensive complaint asking the Attorney Grievance Committee of the New York State Supreme Court to initiate an investigation into Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche for violations of the New York Rules of Professional Conduct. The complaint is also signed by a bipartisan group of more than 100 former federal and state judges. And joining me now are 2 of the great Americans involved in making this case happen. Chris Swartz, Senior Ethics Counsel and the former Chief of Ethics Law and Policy Branch at the U.S. Office of Government Ethics, and Virginia Cantor, Chief Counsel and Director of Anti-Corruption and Ethics. She has served as Associate Counsel for Presidents Obama and Clinton, Ethics Advisor for the International Monetary Fund, Chief Ethics Counsel for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, aka CREW, and Senior Ethics Counsel for the Department of the Treasury and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Welcome to you both. I feel very inadequate. I feel like my career has been nothing compared to what I just read from the 2 of you. So I feel quite inadequate. So I'm just going to let y'all talk. Virginia, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Tell me about this case and how is it possible to bring a bar complaint against someone who is the sitting AG?
Well, actually, we've been working on it for quite some time because, ever since he was Deputy Attorney General, he's been involved in various activities at the Department of Justice where he's failed to represent competently and diligently the interests of the United States government. And we have worked with LDAD, Lawyers Defending American Democracy in America, and with these 101 former federal and state judges to file a complaint with the New York Attorney Grievance Committee, where Acting Attorney General Blanche is a member of the New York Bar, and he's subject to the ethics rules of New York State. And under U.S. law, under a law that's known as the McDade Amendment, they have jurisdiction to hear the allegations of potential violations of his ethical obligations.
So Chris, tell me in your mind, like, what are sort of the big, if you had to give me 3 of the most egregious actions that let to say to you as an ethics expert, okay, we got to file a complaint?
Yeah. So I think our complaint sets out really 3 outcome chapters, really categories of conduct that Mr. Blanche engaged in that we identify that we think raises some serious concerns about his adherence to his professional responsibility, which apply to him as an attorney as they apply to all attorneys. The first is this sort of horrendous slush fund and settlement agreement that he's entered into in President Trump versus IRS. And the sort of giveaway of this $1.776 billion that they were trying to create into this slush fund, as you saw in that clip earlier, that was going to potentially be going to these people, including January 6th insurrectionists, people who have attacked our Capitol. And this giveaway of liability, this release of liability that is being given to the president, his family, and to Trump Organization of not just their taxes, but a variety of other pending and potentially could be pending matters. We don't even know what's been given away, and really very egregious. The second is the politicalization and weaponization of the Department of Justice's prosecutorial and investigatory authorities to go after people like James Comey for putting seashells into a numerical pattern, and Kilmore Abrego Garcia, who was found to have been vindictively prosecuted. The court found that there was a presumption of vindictive prosecution in there when he was sent to CCOT and then criminally indicted. And the third is the Epstein files. Mm-hmm. President Trump obviously is named in those files numerous times, and Todd Blanche was really central, as Bondi said in her recent hearing, to both how they were going to respond, as well as to how they dealt with Ghislaine Maxwell and her transfer from minimum security prison to FPC Bryan, which is a minimum security camp, which is not permitted under Bureau of Prisons policy. And so those are really sort of the 3 categories that we cover in this complaint.
You know, in Virginia, to that last point, the Epstein files, Pam Bondi, who I think I would agree with Mary L. Trump, who was in the previous segment, who she's called the 2nd most corrupt attorney general in U.S. history, with Mr. Blanche being the first in Mary Trump's view. Pam Bondi went into a hearing with members of Congress and said that her stonewalling on releasing the Epstein files, she laid that at the feet of Todd Blanche, who was her deputy at the time. I don't know if your complaint addresses this in specificity, because it feels like Pamela Jo Bondi could have had a complaint like this, but she didn't. Do you believe that Todd Blanche, or at least does this complaint allege that he is more to blame for withholding the Epstein files in contravention of the Epstein, of a law requiring them to be released? Do you think he's more to blame than Pam Bondi?
I think they're both equally to blame. And in fact, we did file a complaint with the Florida bar against Pam Bondi for failing to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And but the fact that she pointed the finger directly at him makes it all the more apparent his liability and his culpability in failing to comply with that statute. And I mean, it's really horrendous given the promises that were made to the American people. And it's actually the Epstein Files Transparency Act is actually a very, very simple statute. It just requires the government, and particularly the Department of Justice, which had custody of these records, to turn them over to Congress. Yet they failed to comply timely with the disclosure requirement. They withheld and redacted documents that they had no business redacting. They released victim information that should never have been disclosed. And they failed to publish what was withheld. And it's in essence one of the most simple requirements you could fulfill, and they utterly failed. And he is apparently personally responsible.
And Chris Swartz, Todd Blanche went on Fox, of course. Where else would he go? And he attempted to justify the prosecution of the Southern Poverty Law Center, claiming that the fact that they had undercover operatives, and paid informants, which is what they've been doing for decades, means that they were responsible for the Charlottesville riots, which is insane. But it now has emerged that complaint came because Stephen Miller, who was named by the SPLC as somebody with ties to white nationalist belief systems, and others who had been named by them were mad about it and said, prosecute them. And it seemed that it was like ordering a pizza. You say, I don't like what the Southern Poverty Law Center is doing to me, and then they get prosecuted. Is that the way that this complaint argues that the Justice Department is operating?
Yeah, exactly. So what we talk about in this, and we talk about, I just raised it here, about the personal use of the Department of Justice to carry out political and personal vendettas, is absolutely one of the gravest concerns that we have about the Department of Justice right now. And it seems to be something that Acting Attorney General Blanche is in no way objecting to. He seems to be right on top of it. Within the first few weeks of him taking on that acting role, we saw him standing on stage with Kash Patel, bringing this indictment, the second indictment after the original failed indictment against James Comey. And so I think there's a trend here of utilizing the Department of Justice to engage in, on one side, dropping cases against people who the president likes and creating sort of benefits by not prosecuting those people, and then going after people the president and his close associates don't like. And this really is creating a two-tiered system of justice, and that is not what the Department of Justice, and it is certainly not what the Attorney General should be doing. The Attorney General's responsibility is primarily to the United States. That's all of us. Doesn't matter what party you are in. And the fact that they are using the power of the department to go after people of only one party is very unsettling.
And Virginia, the new thing they're doing is attempting to frame innocent people, or people who, were accused of trespassing or being near the reflecting pool at the wrong hours or touching the water, of some sort of a crime, or at least threatening to prosecute people, all in order to shore up a very clear lie from the President of the United States to absolve himself of responsibility for hiring a dumb contractor, a bad contractor. He could just say, I hired a bad contractor, but he won't. And he wasted $14 to $16 million. There are people who are now having to lawyer up and get lawyers because they need scapegoats to pretend that these people cut a gash in the reflecting pool. Like, we are, I think, so far into the abyss here. What can a case like this do to slow this man down? Well,
the President Trump is only emboldened, right, if he has lawyers who carry out these activities in his name. The Department of Justice is supposed to be pursuing its mission without fear or favor. They're supposed to be prosecuting without fear or favor. It's, there are several cases that have been thrown out because there's no probable cause. I mean, that's happened all over the Department of Justice. That's probably what's going to happen. As our colleague Norm Eisen has said, it's not illegal illegal to put your hand in the water. And the fact that, that they were prosecuting people because somebody got hit with a sandwich. I mean, these are all ridiculous, and they undermine the integrity of the Department of Justice, which has a long, long history before Trump took office of independence and pursuing these cases impartially.
I have to ask you both. I look at your amazing titles and the hard work that you did for previous administrations. Do the jobs that you all had, do they still exist in the current government? Chris, I'll start with you. Like, do you know whether was your position ever replaced in this administration?
Yeah, so the Office of Government Ethics, where I worked for many years, still exists. Unfortunately, it's not as able to do the mission that it was set out to do. And some of the people in this administration have shown no indication that they want to adhere to the ethics rules. That's deeply troubling. And, really, we need to have organizations like that, which are supposed to be independent, nonpartisan entities speaking truth to power. We need to have them empowered to do their job.
Same with you, Virginia. Does your old job still exist?
My old job still exists. I think it's a huge challenge. I think, but there has been a depletion of ethics officials. There's also, more importantly, a depletion of the inspector generals. I mean, the one way we can hold individuals accountable, and specifically attorneys, is by going to the bars themselves to hold attorneys accountable for violations of the bar rules. But it's definitely depleted, and I'm sure there's, serious morale issues, but hopefully we'll get to the point where we can restore it.
Before we let you all go, tell us what happens next. I guess, Chris, you close us out and tell us what's the next step for this, and if you all succeed, then what would happen? What would happen to Todd Blanche if you guys win?
Yeah, so what we're looking for is for the New York Grievance Committee to take this up and do a thorough investigation to assess the allegations that we put forward in this complaint, to identify the evidence that they need, and to do the appropriate thing that they would do for any other attorney. Determine whether it was misconduct, decide on the appropriate disciplinary action, and enforce that disciplinary action. And that is what we're hoping will happen here.
Chris Swartz and Virginia Cantor, we wish you luck. Please come back and give us an update whenever there is an update. And God bless y'all for at least trying to bring some accountability to the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the audience, you will note that lawyers who've been around Donald Trump haven't fared too well. Rudy Giuliani, all of these lawyers that have worked for him over the years, they've tended to become disbarred, disgraced. Being Trump's attorney has never really worked out well. So Todd Blanche may want to heads up that this is probably not going to end well for your reputation or for your law license. Even if it doesn't happen now, down the road, I don't see how you wind up as somebody who can practice law in a normal way, having been associated with this freak show that is the Trump regime 2.0. It's hard to imagine that it's worse than Trump 1.0. And yet, here we are. All right, before we end this hour, one more ad break. Let's note that the Joy Reid Show is brought to you by our friends at Hexclad.
If you want the performance of stainless steel, the versatility of cast iron, and the convenience of non-stick, then you want Hexclad.
Yes, and let me tell you something. I'm obsessed. Our Hexclad, we have, first of all, don't go to the website because you will become stuck on it. You will be sitting on that site scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through. We have the hybrid fry pan set and also one of the pots. And when I tell you, when you say it's nonstick, normally nonstick coatings, stuff will still get stuck to it. It's very difficult to clean. It's very difficult to maintain. After 2 or 3 uses, it doesn't look shiny and bright and beautiful anymore. No, not these. When I tell you these Hexclad pots and pans are truly nonstick. You can even use metal. And Jason doesn't like when you use metal, but you can even use metal fixtures on them, and they work beautifully, and they do not get scratched. They can go in the dishwasher. When I tell you this is the ultimate all-in-one cookware upgrade, it is amazing. Their 12-piece set, it's the ultimate. If you are a foodie, if you love to cook, if you are a kitchen fan and you like to be in there making food and you need this. Okay, these are fabulous. And they're an amazing gift if you've got a family member or friend that loves to cook, baby. I'm telling you, they're beautiful. They look gorgeous, and they stay looking gorgeous even after you use them, even after you wash them. Fabulous. Their patented hybrid technology is backed by a lifetime warranty. So they send you the warranty. You use a little barcode. You get to have the warranty for life. Hexclad pans, they are metal utensil safe. As I said, you do not have to baby them. You can switch tools mid-cook. They stand the heat. They are fabulous. The laser etched hex pattern creates these tiny raised stainless steel peaks that protect the non-stick surface and improve browning. The easy release surface means you do not need as much oil. You don't need as much butter, and you still get amazing, amazing results. Fabulous. If you want to try these, and you really do want to try these are actually the best. These are the pots and pans. You know what, like all the families, you got them old pots and pans you got from your grandma and your mom, and they're all scratched up, and you know how they look. You know you're embarrassed when company comes over, you don't want to show them your pots and pans. You want to take these pots and pans up and hang them up. They're so fabulous and gorgeous. If you want to try them, whether you are hosting all summer long or you just want to make everyday cooking feel easier and be fabulous, this is the upgrade that your kitchen deserves and that you deserve. For a limited time, our listeners at the Joy Reid Show get 10% off with our exclusive link. Just head to hexclad.com/joy. Support our show and check them out at Hexclad. That's HEXCLAD.com/joy. So hexclad.com/joy. Make sure you let them know we sent you. And I promise you, I literally have the website up right here in front of me. Baby, I'm telling you, too fabulous. Hold on. Can I just show you guys my screen real quick? Look. Obsessed. I literally just scrolled through it just for fun because the stuff on there is so fabulous. Woo, and they are the best pots and pans you will ever have, ever in your life. All right. Thank you, Hexclad, for sponsoring the show. Fabulous. All right. So welcome to hour 2 of the Joy Reid Show. Now, do be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And no, I'm not shopping during the show. I'm just looking. I'll be acting like I just clicked off of that link because I hear Wanjira laughing at me in the background because yes, I was scrolling a little bit before the show, just looking to see if I want a little extra accoutrement, okay? Because we like our Hexclad stuff, okay? Welcome to, people will be at work and they be scrolling on what, how we do sometimes. Welcome to hour 2 of the Joy Reid Show. Do be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We love it if you bought merch and you would like to tag us at Joy Reid Show on IG or at Joy and Reid. That's if you want to tag moi. You can also use the hashtag wearing joy or the hashtag readers because we love to know that you're a reader. I love it when people come up to me in the street and go, I'm a reader. I love it. If you're a Team TJRS member, meaning you're subscribed both here and at Substack, doubly thank you. And please let us know that as well. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Y'all, we had Mary Trump on. We've been waiting to have her on for a while. Absolutely love her. And we're glad about the lawsuit, or not lawsuit, but the case to try to hold Todd Blanche accountable. We wish the same for Pamela Joe. So thanks to all of them for being on hour 1. I want to let you know that this hour of the Joy Reid Show is brought to you by our friends at Helix. Now, let me tell you something else I love. Because listen, we actually, if we're supporting it, we actually use it and try it and make sure that we love it. And we absolutely are obsessed with and love our Helix Midnight Luxe mattress. Game changer. I'm a side sleeper. That numb arm, it is a thing of the past because that numb arm is everything. You wake up in the morning, half your body feels like it's asleep and it don't wake up with you. You don't need that. You need a great mattress that's going to help you sleep cool, that's going to help you sleep well, avoid that back pain, help you sleep through the night. Hello, menopause. It'll be waking you up at 2, 3 in the morning, but not when you have a great mattress. A great mattress actually makes your life better, makes your sleep better. It's very helpful. And Helix offers more than just an amazing mattress. They also will get that amazing mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US and seamless delivery. You go on helixsleep.com. You tell them exactly how you sleep. You tell them all the things about you, and then they say, this is the mattress for you. They recommend a perfect mattress for you, and then they back it up with a 120-night sleep trial and a limited lifetime warranty. Happy with Helix guarantee means that you rest easy with seamless returns and exchanges. It is risk-free, customer first. It's designed to ensure that you are completely satisfied with your new mattress. And Helix is the most awarded mattress brand, tested and reviewed by experts at places like Forbes and Wired. So if you'd like to try it and upgrade your mattress, which you should do, don't buy a new bed and keep your old mattress. That's crazy. Go to helixsleep.com/joy for 20% off site-wide, 25% off the Luxe mattress brand, and 30% off the Elite mattresses, which are like super amazing. That is helixsleep.com/joy for 20% off site-wide, 25% off Luxe mattresses, 30% off Elite mattresses at helixsleep.com/joy. So we are living in the Great American Nightmare, as we talk about on this show all the time, because we no longer can rely on the federal government, which is what particularly Black Americans have done for our sojourn in this country since we've been able to attain citizenship through the Reconstruction Amendments. Since then, you've really seen, particularly African Americans, really look to the federal government as the backstop against states' rights conservatives. And states' rights conservatives used to call themselves Democrats, and now they call themselves Republicans. It doesn't matter what the brand name is, it's still the same conservatism. That's still the same harm to us. And so when the federal government turns on you, what do, right? Because throughout the 20th century, it's really been the Supreme Court that has been the backstop of the rights, particularly of African Americans. And it's been the backstop of rights for children, to make sure child labor laws end, of the environment, of trying to shore up. The Supreme Court, particularly the Warren Court, has really been where we've looked to say, here's where we can go to try to redress our rights and redress our grievances. And the federal government has been that, off and on for the most part. It's at least been helpful. And the Supreme Court's been the most helpful. That is no longer true. Now, one of our worst enemies when it comes to our rights and our freedoms and our liberties in this country is the Supreme Court. The environment is being ripped apart because the Supreme Court is allowing big polluters to do it. The rights that were so painfully gained through the 20th century are being rolled back one by one. The rights that women had, the rights that African Americans had, the Voting Rights Act, which has been ratified and reaffirmed over and over and over and over and over again by Republican and Democratic Congresses, has now been eviscerated. It's just all sort of coming apart between the Republicans in Congress, the Republicans who run certain states, red states, and the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is at it again. Let me read you a little bit of this piece by a great man who we're going to bring on, not yet, but shortly. And it says, some days the Republicans on the Supreme Court inflict rank harm on individuals who happen to be Black or happen to be women or LGBTQ+. Other days they attack the whole group, ripping down entire legal structures that Black people or women or the LGBTQ+ community rely on for protection. And on Tuesday, the Republican majority did both. In a 6-3 ruling that broke along fascist/Democrat lines versus Democrat lines, the court managed to ignore a blatant violation of a prisoner's constitutional rights and neutered an entire federal law meant specifically to protect people in prison. And then, just for good measure, it continued its assault on congressional authority. That is a piece in The Nation by one Elie Mystal. So that's one piece of what we're facing in this moment as African Americans. And then there's another piece of it. Let's just see too if you could put it up. There are these 4 really painful cases that are represented by the images that you see on your screen. And these cases really speak to the disparities in the ways that Black people, including Black children, are treated by the law, whether they are accused of a crime or whether they are the victim of a violent crime. So at the upper right-hand corner of your screen is a woman named Mackenzie Sharilla. She's an Ohio woman who is serving 15 years to life in prison for the July 2022 murders of her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and their friend, Davion Flanagan. Prosecutors proved that she intentionally accelerated her car to nearly 100 miles per hour and crashed into a brick building without hitting the brakes, essentially deliberately crashing the car in order to cause the death of this, I guess, boyfriend or friend. And so that is her. Next to her is Carmelo Anthony, same name as the NBA player, but with a K. He is 19 years old. He was found guilty of murder, and he was sentenced to 35 years in prison, 20 more years than Ms. Sharilla, in Collin County, Texas, by an all-white Collin County, Texas jury, in which all of the Black potential jurors were barred. The conviction stems from the fatal stabbing of a 17-year-old high school track athlete named Austin Metcalf during an April 2025 track meet in Frisco, Texas, in which Carmelo Anthony claims he was defending himself after being physically accosted by a group of white teenagers. Then go to the second row. On the left is that sweet, adorable little baby, is a baby named Cohen Wiley. And Cohen Wiley is deceased because Cohen Wiley, his mom was accosted in Mississippi in front of a store in which she was accused of shoplifting diapers. And police opened fire in this Walmart parking lot and killed this 1-year-old baby, because the mom was accused of shoplifting diapers for which she actually had a receipt. So now there is a lawsuit. Ben Crump has joined the local litigators who are now suing for wrongful death over his case. And then, of course, at the bottom right, I'm sure you guys have seen this case, and his name is Cyrus Belton. And he was a 14-year-old boy who was killed. He's just a 14-year-old child. He went in to buy water in a South Carolina shop owned by Asian American immigrants who own this shop. He looked at the water. There's video of him picking up the water and putting it down. He was accused by the owners of that shop of shoplifting. They chased him out of their shop, chased him 130 yards, the father and son who owned the store, shot him in the back and killed him. And despite the fact that this family had had previous run-ins or previous issues and incidents with Black customers, none of that was able to come in as evidence. And so none of that came in. And therefore, the person who shot and killed this 14-year-old child, who's at the bottom right, who looks a lot like Trayvon Martin, eerily, for a lot of people have pointed out to me, and he does, that person walked. So those are the 4 cases. Let me bring in Elie Mystal, who is the Chief Justice Correspondent at The Nation magazine. He's the author of that first piece that I started reading to you. And so, Elie, I'm going to have you be my legal analyst extraordinaire on both Supreme Court issues and on some of these legal issues that just talk to the disparity in what we face. I want to start with your piece in The Nation about what happened in the Supreme Court on Tuesday about religious freedom and Rastafarians. Please explain.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joy. I hate this case. This is I think one of the more disgusting cases that come out of the Supreme Court this term. And I watch all the Supreme Court cases, so that's saying something. The case involves a Rastafarian named Damon Landor. As you probably know, as most of your viewers probably know, Rastafarians are required to grow their hair out into dreadlocks. Landor had grown his hair out for 20 years when he was busted for low-level drug possession and was sentenced to about 4 months in prison. He was moved between a number of Louisiana correctional facilities. He kept his hair long, and he was moved to a third facility 3 weeks before the end of his sentence. Now, Landor is no dummy. He understands how Louisiana likes to get down when it comes to Black prisoners. So he goes to the third facility with a court ruling specifically talking about how Rastafarians like him are allowed to keep their hair, to keep their dreadlocks. The intake guard ripped up the court order, threw it in the trash, at which point Landor was forcibly strapped to a chair and had his head shaved. That's a violation. That's a violation of the man's constitutional rights, religious rights, personal rights, and rights to dignity. So after he gets out of prison, he sues. You have a constitutional right under the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment to practice your religion in the way that seems fit. Again, the court has already ruled that you're not allowed to cut people's hair, and there are numerous cases involving Jewish Americans who refuse to shave their beard, Muslim Americans who refuse to shave their beards while in prison, and Rastafarians who refuse to shave their hair, and they are protected. So this is a clear-cut violation of an established constitutional right. And it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, no, you don't have it. No, you're not allowed to sue. And that is shocking, Joy, because if you know anything about this current Supreme Court, is that they're Christo-fascists. If you know anything about this current Supreme Court, it's that every time a Christian walks into that courtroom saying that, oh, Jesus made me a bigot, oh, Jesus tells me I can't like the gay people, that the Supreme Court is like, yes, by all means, put that gay person into the sun. You don't have to bake a cake. You don't have to do anything you want. You can treat that gay person with disrespect. That is your constitutional religious right. And we know that the court upholds those rights all the time. So in this case, when a Rastafarian, when a black man is claiming a religious right not to be a bigot, just to keep his own body in the manner according to his religion, all of a sudden the Supreme Court ain't got no time for him. Can't hear his case. Says that literally the man has no right to sue the correctional officers in Louisiana. And I wish that was the worst thing. I wish that was the worst thing about this case, but it's not. Because the way the Supreme Court took away his right to sue was to take away an entire law passed by Congress that says specifically prisoners have the right to sue correctional officers if they violate the prisoner's religious freedom. That is not a constitutional provision. That is a law passed by Congress. And the Supreme Court said that law can't survive because it was passed pursuant to the Congress's authority under the spending clause. Without getting into the jargon, think about it this way. If the federal government gives you money and you take the money, that's a spending clause thing. And that means the federal government can also say, all right, if you're going to take this money, here are the other laws you need to follow. Here are the other rules or regulations you need to follow. It's a very common way for Congress to pass laws. And Neil Gorsuch and the 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court say, no. When Congress does that, they're not really passing a law. They're entering into some kind of contract. And if you don't agree to be part of the contract, then you don't have to agree to be subject to the law. Which is not how laws work. If there were, there'd be a whole bunch of contracts that I didn't agree to, and so I can't be punished by the federal government, right? So they say all spending clause laws are now suspect according to the Supreme Court. Well, Joy, what are some other laws passed pursuant to Congress's power under the spending clause? That would be Title VI under the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race. That would be Title IX under the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. That would be the American with Disabilities Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability. Those are your spending clause laws, folks. And so when Neil Gorsuch and the Republican supermajority says that laws passed under this power are more like contracts and less like laws, who do you think they're coming after? What do you think they're coming after next? And that is why I hate this case so much, because not only is it this individual violation, this real personal injustice to a peaceable man who should have had constitutional protections, it's also they use that injustice to then take a shot at the foundation of some of our most important civil rights protections, because that's how the Christo-fascists on this Supreme Court roll.
It's so exhausting to think about the ways in which they are setting up. And the reason I wanted to marry that case and have you specifically talk about that and marry that to these 4 cases is that it feels to me like this Supreme Court majority is building the building blocks of apartheid. And I say that, and I mean it with I mean that exactly as it sounds, Fox. I'm sorry, Fox, and all of the folks that work there that are going to get mad that I'm saying this. They are building apartheid, because if you put together all of the pieces of this, they're saying that only white Christians have a right to sue and have a right to pursue their religion publicly. They can force kids to pray at a football game. They can refuse to bake a cake for a gay couple. They can really do whatever they want. They can discriminate against anyone they want literally because they're white Christians. They can call into question 20 years of mifepristone being legal because their religious beliefs say that it's wrong. If they don't believe abortion is right because of their religious morality, they can end every woman's rights, right? They can do anything. But then when you take that and you set that on one side, and then to the other side, you look at these state cases. They're all different states, all different laws. It appears to me that young Black men cannot claim self-defense, that children can be murdered with impunity because one person accuses their parent of shoplifting, which is not a death penalty offense, even if she'd done it. That child can be murdered by a shop owner who sees a Black person and is scared of them and thinks that a Black person is automatically a criminal. And that's not illegal in America. But that a young white woman who legitimately is found to have killed 2 people gets like less than half of the jail time of the Black kid. Like, I put it all together and I see apartheid.
Yeah, look, the thing that ties the room together is the violence, right? Whether you're talking about slavery, whether you're talking about segregation, whether you're talking about apartheid, whether you're talking about any form of white supremacy, these are never merely theoretical ideas, right? The white supremacists don't get you with really good argument. That's not how they roll. They roll with force. They roll with violence to back up their unearned idea of their own supremacy. They kill us. They murder us. They beat us. Violence is the underpinning to their entire white supremacist society. And the connection between what happened to Landor at the Supreme Court, look, I know that in the context even of the cases that we're talking about, being forced to shave your hair doesn't sound like a violent act. But trust me, as a well-coiffed American, being physically forced to be shorn is an act of violence. It's an act of humiliation. Yeah. It's an act of degradation. And the violence that the Supreme Court upholds on Tuesday is the same violence that is visited to the 3 cases that you've mentioned today. I'm glad you already mentioned this, but I'm just going to have to double emphasize this. Please. The idea that shoplifting, even if it was committed, which in both of the cases we're talking about, it was not. Right. The idea that shoplifting is a capital offense that can be solved by freaking Rent-A-Cop, freaking Paul Blart, opening fire in a Walmart parking lot where tons of innocent non-shoplifting people are killing people is insane and only makes sense under the rubric of white supremacy. Only makes sense under the rubric that none of y'all lives matter. No way. So if I kill the person that I was shooting at or the baby that was sitting right next to you, it don't matter because none of y'all matter anyway. That's the underlying premise behind the gall to open fire in a Walmart parking lot. In the other case, the man, the boy, the 14-year-old, my kid is 13. He's running away.
Right.
He's running away from the shop owners. Again, he didn't shoplift, but even if he did shoplift, shoplifting is not a capital offense, and he's running away. They shot him in the back. Again, violence, the idea that your lives mean so little that I can shoot you to death over a bottle of water while in the back while you're running away.
Yeah. And in the Carmelo Anthony case, you cannot defend yourself.
Right. And then that's the Carmelo Anthony issue of like, we can do violence to you. And if you dare try to stop us, if you dare try to defend yourself, if you dare Malcolm X it and go by any means necessary, we will put your ass under the jail. Right. We will build the jail around your black ass for daring to try to defend yourself. And that is my wife is from sub-Saharan Africa. She's from Zimbabwe. And we talk a lot about how much the violence was a known and accepted part of keeping apartheid going. It's never just off screen. It's always in your face because there's no other way to keep people down like this. There's no other way for them to win other than with overwhelming violence. And that's what we're seeing writ large right through the entire Trump administration, the entire MAGA regime. But we can't just blame the MAGAs. We can't just blame the Trump administration because what we also see and what we've always seen, and we can go back from these cases to George Floyd, to Philando Castile, to Michael Brown and Ferguson. What we see is a real acceptance by otherwise good white folks for the violence that's done against us.
Yeah, back to Trayvon Martin as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? maybe he shouldn't have run away.
Right, exactly. Let me bring in Angela Rye, our dear friend, former counsel to the Congressional Black Caucus, great lawyer, great friend, and also the co-host of Native Land Pod. And Angie, thank you so much for being here. I wanted to bring you in because there are updates in the Carmelo Anthony case, and I wanted you to let us know what is happening in that case that potentially changes where we stand.
Yes, well, what has been made public is there's been a notice for substitute counsel filed. There are several new attorneys who have joined Carmelo Anthony's legal team, and it's important when you think about a matter like this. You think about needing to have a dream team behind you, and so there are attorneys. The noted Russell Wilson, who's a great appellate attorney, leading that team of folks in Dallas, Texas, and very familiar with that community. Michael Ware is another one in the third chair. I don't remember if Michael is second chair or third chair, but third chair is Gary Bledsoe, who's also the Texas NAACP president, and also has his own law practice. So that is what is happening right now in the case. And I think that for many of us who sat at home and hoped that Carmelo would have the opportunity to see justice served, that now this presents a new opportunity, and hopefully the court will agree with these amazing attorneys on this particular matter.
Where I hope they can appeal is on the Batson challenges, right? So you mentioned, Joy, that there were 3 black jurors who were excluded from the jury pool. So Anthony was the trial was heard by an all-white jury in Texas. It is, again, technically speaking,
it wasn't all white, Elie. Just so you know, it wasn't all white. But there was not a black juror.
It wasn't all white, but there wasn't a black juror. Got it. Thank you. So just constitutionally, technically, you're not allowed to exclude people on the basis of race. You're supposed to be able to give a valid non-racial reason for the exclusion of jurors. The reason the prosecutors gave for the black jurors, for the 3 that were excluded, was that they either were teachers or had school-age children. How does having children make you not able to hear a case where one child is accused of murdering another child? So we want people who don't, I only have dogs, so what can I know? How does that possibly make sense? And I'm sure as you go through, you're going to find a lot of people who were on the jury who, did have children, because it's pretty hard to find 12 childless people in goddamn Texas. So I'm hoping that the appeal can get into that and potentially get this man, boy, a new trial in front of a fair jury at the very least.
I think that the most important thing to note is, as it says in the press statement from the team, is they intend to uncover every bit of evidence, every single thing about what may have gone wrong at the trial level and challenge that. And that is what the team has said. So certainly Batson is an issue that was raised at the trial level, and I anticipate that among many other issues being explored by this really amazing team with quite a track record in Texas.
Can I ask you, Angela, can you just tell folks who are not, those of us who are non-lawyers, not attorneys, what is a Batson challenge? What does that mean?
Yes, it comes up when someone has been stricken because of their race, and people assume the prosecution struck these jurors in particular because of their race. And so the defense had the opportunity to raise a Batson challenge. They did do that according to the notes, and they questioned whether or not the 3 black remaining jurors were stricken from the jury pool because of their race. And that's what the challenge is.
And Elie, can I ask you from a constitutional perspective, do things like Batson challenges, do those even still stand given the makeup of the Supreme Court? Are we still confident that rule is still real?
Within reason, yeah. And it's going to be you're not going to believe me when I say this, but
I know what you're going to say.
Batson challenges happens to be the one thing that alleged attempted rapist Brett Kavanaugh is good on. It's I call it Batson is Kavanaugh's beard. He tends to support Batson challenges, and at least he doesn't, there have been cases up at the Supreme Court where prosecutors have just put a B next to every black juror on the sheet and just been like, no. And they've had the raw notes, the Post-its with the B's on it. And even Kavanaugh's like, that's just not how we're going to do these things. So if it's there is, put like this, more than most other cases that we're going to talk about, there is a chance that the Supreme Court will uphold Batson in a way that they won't uphold most other civil rights laws.
And then exit question to you, Angela, what should we be expecting in terms of the timeline, the way that these cases play out? Those of us who've kind of covered appeals, they seem like they take years. Are these the kinds of cases that take a long time, or what should we be expecting as we're watching this case go forward?
That is a question for the legal team that's in place in Texas. I do not know how long it will take. I think it depends on, again, what they're able to uncover, what the court docket looks like, all of these things. There's so many factors at play. But I can assure you that this team in particular is hot on the trail, in pursuit of justice, and moving quickly. I think that so many of, now I'm talking about the broader team, the country, the folks who've been concerned about this case, all people are thinking about is this happened when this child was 17 years old. He's a 19-year-old who is an aspiring attorney. He's a track and field captain, played baseball in school, played football, was the football team captain, and maintained a 3.7 GPA even while on house arrest for this. And so I think it is important for us all to understand the humanity that must be considered in this particular matter. So timelines, I don't know, but I do know the human being that folks are pursuing justice for. It needs to be seen in this process. We cannot divorce the humanity of a Black child because that makes the rest of the country uncomfortable.
Two of my favorite legal analysts to help us understand what is going on in all of these cases and on the Supreme Court. Angela Reid, please follow Native Land Pod. Go ahead and subscribe. What you waiting on? Go ahead and subscribe. Please support all that Elie Mystal is doing. Read the Nation just for him. Like pretty much I subscribe because Ellie's over there.
You can hear his voice when he's writing. You can hear Elie screaming the words. It is fantastic.
Right?
Yes.
I read them in Ellie's voice in my head. Like I actually read his pieces and I just read them in his voice, in my mind.
You can hear him. Veins popping and all that. You can hear him.
And he promised me he would never cut his hair. You and Teray both had to promise me you would never cut your hair. So I'm keeping it to
Where is the pic today, Elie?
Long as I'm not in Louisiana, I'm good.
Shout out to the home team.
Shout out to the Rasta. Shout out to my Rastafarian massive. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate everybody. Thank you. We're going to keep up on all of these cases. I will let you know also that in the Cohen-Wiley case, there's a wrongful death. I think I mentioned there's a wrongful death case that's sort of gearing up there. And in the Cyrus Belton case, there's a big push to change some of the elected officials in that state representatives and state house members, to change the law that did not allow prior bad acts of the men who shot this young man, this boy, he wasn't a young man, this child, to come into court. So these are the reasons that you vote. And also you want to register to vote so you can get on juries. Okay, let's go to, we have one more block here. I have to show you guys this because this was the vibe in New York City. I have total FOMO seeing this vibe, but this was the vibe last night following the election results in New York City. Jason, if you could roll D1.
Darializa, it was called? And that's a dub. Wait, that's 3 for 3? The Democratic Party machine in the blue stronghold of New York City was thoroughly defeated tonight. Hey, after tonight, my price went up. You have to be a Democratic Socialist if you want some of this shine. Sorry.
I am at Claire Valdez's victory party where we just got news. The crowd erupted because we heard that Darializa has also won, which means we're 3 for 3. We swept it. We swept all 3 Sunrise endorsed candidates. And okay, here's what I'm feeling. When Zoran won, it was a sign of what could happen and what was possible. It told us what we could achieve. Tonight, though, young people have taken over New York City, and we're going to Congress. Young people who are unapologetically democratic socialists, who are standing on values and standing up for working people and what we deserve, and standing against the billionaires and the corporate interests that are destroying our future. Tonight marks the end of the bought-out boomer corporate establishment Democrats, and the beginning of young people actually like taking over and running a government that serves us and our futures, and not billionaire donors. I feel so honored to be here. We didn't do this magically. I think Claire's campaign knocked like 350,000 doors, and just like the upswelling of support from young people is so inspiring to me. And we can do it all across the country. We are doing it all across the country. We need your help this week to elect Malak Quiros in Colorado. If you live there, go knock doors. If you don't live there, we need you on the phone banks. And it is electric to be here and be a part of. Anyway, see you on the phones.
So, of course, that first voice you saw was Hassan Piker, the very popular progressive streamer. Yes.
I don't mean to be rude, but Chuck Schumer needs to watch his behind. When he's come up, these young people are going to run his behind completely out of town.
He should be concerned. All three of the candidates who were put forward, he should be concerned, who were put forward and supported. Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, took a big chance by supporting three candidates who were running in Democratic primaries with the Democratic Socialist America, the DSA banner, as well as the Democratic Party banner. They are Assemblywoman Claire Valdez, who defeated Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso in the 7th District, Darializa Avila Chevalier, who's a doctoral student who has joined pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. She won race in the 13th District, beating Adriano Espaillat, who is the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. So he's a very powerful member of the Democratic congressional delegation. And then, of course, Brad Lander, who we had on this show. Look, our record is getting pretty good, y'all. We have a big win over loss rate on the Joy Reid Show. We just saw Brad Lander. He was on the day before the election on Monday night. Brad Lander won another big race in which, yes, Brad Lander, TJRS winner. TJRS, we have a pretty good track record. He beat Dan Goldman, who is a very popular former prosecutor who appears a lot on the artist formerly known as MSNBC. He also won. That was a big upset as well. That Israel being a big issue there as well. So that was the vibe. It was like young people. It was people in the streets. It felt like the Knicks victory weekend. It was like a lot, right? And so that is what happened there. Now let's come over and see the vibe in the other state that had big primaries last time. That is the state of Maryland. This was the victory party for Adrian Boafo, who you've heard us talk a lot about on this show. He is the AIPAC adjacent. There was an AIPAC affiliated group that was a big supporter of his, as well as the cryptocurrency folks who put millions of dollars into pushing him. He was endorsed by the governor of Maryland, as well as by one of the two state senators, United States senators. The other United States senator said, oh, watch out for AIPAC. He an AIPAC guy. So they split. But here's Boafo's victory party.
American leaders, these are the times that Prime Minister Adrian Boafo is going to be a light unto the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the next congressman from the 5th Congressional District, my friend, Boafo.
What's going on, family? How are we feeling tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, I just got off the phone with Harry Dunn. I just want to say really quick, thank you to all the 23 candidates who ran in this race. It takes a special level of courage and partial insanity to run for the Congress of the United States. So thank you guys. Harry Dunn is my brother. And I know we're gonna work together for this country. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it.
I mean, it was low key giving bring your family night at the old folks home a little bit. It was kind of giving me, senior home care home night when they let, Steny Hoyer started, old Steny. I'm like, ooh, the vibe, a little bit less exciting. And by the way, it did not have to happen that way. Okay, here's how the Times showed the Boafo victory. Okay, it showed him versus Quincy Berebe and Harry Dunn, who was the person that we supported here on the Joy Reid Show, who came in third. But here's the actual size of the field. When you click the little button at the bottom, that's how many people were running. You heard him say that he was thanking the 24 other people who ran. I promise you, 24 damn people ran. Okay, let me get even more specific. Okay, this is MD5. Here are the total returns. This is how many people were running. And you can see all the way sort of at the end there, all the damn number of people that were running. And you can see a little green across the top there, okay? That was the 21,000 votes that Boafo got total between early voting, election day, mail-in balloting, et cetera. You can see he got 21. Now I want to show you something that's going to make you even madder, okay? This is my what if chart. I literally sat last night on Excel, on Microsoft Excel doing this because I pulled the numbers. I was watching them right on the Maryland, the where you get the Maryland returns from the state of Maryland. Had it just been 5 people running, those 5 people versus Adrian Boafo, he got 32% of the vote. Those 5 people together would have gotten 55.9% of the vote. Had it only been 4 people running, this is just without the other people. This is just with the top 4. Had there been no other votes, none of the rest, just the top 4 alone, they beat him. They beat him 42.5% to 32%. Okay? If those 4 people had run alone, if just the top 3 had won, they got 31.8% versus his 32%. It would have been a 0.2% difference. That was a winnable race if it had just been 3 of them who ran. Well, now we get down to just 2. If it had just been Quincy Berebe and Harry Dunn and everybody else had dropped out, they would have almost tied what he got. What I'm saying here, and I'm talking to you, Florida, because Florida looks like it's going to go the way of this. In Florida 20, where 11 people are like, I'm the only solution to these problems. I'm the only one who can beat Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And it's 40 of y'all running, 12 of y'all running. That is how Debbie Wasserman Schultz is about to be the nominee in Florida 20. And then a lot of Black folks in Florida are going to be real mad. And on election day in November, won't want to vote. And that's how the Republican wins. When we hear people say, I get stuck with the lesser of 2 evils, this is what it's about. In New York, you had the opportunity for 2-on-1s against the incumbent. The incumbent has an advantage when they are running, and the more people they're running against, the better for them. AIPAC won in the state of Maryland, period. The victor was AIPAC and crypto because too many people who had no shot of becoming the nominee for the Democratic Party in the Congressional District 5, too many people who had this much of a shot, no shot, refused to stand down. Look honestly at your own chances and think about who was the most viable candidate. If even 3/4 of them had said, you know what, it's not going to be me, and let me throw my support behind one of the more viable candidates. And y'all knew who were more viable because there was at least 1 or 2 polls, but y'all all decided it's got to be me. So many of you ran. That man, Adrian Boafo, did not win a majority of the voters in Maryland District 5. He only won 32%. That's not even a third. 33% is a third. He got less than a third of the district to support him affirmatively. 2/3 of the people who voted in Maryland District 5 wanted someone other than the crypto AIPAC candidate. But we're left with the crypto AIPAC candidate, and then what we're going to hear in November is vote blue no matter who. Because if it's not him, you're going to get a Republican. You see how you railroad yourselves into the lesser of 2 evils option, while New York City is going to go into November joyfully. They're going to go into November powered by young people. They're going to go into November excited about voting for their nominees. They're going to go into November ready for change and excited about change. Maryland is going to limp into November, being like, well, I guess I got to vote for Boafo. I guess I got to vote for AIPAC It's AIPAC wins, whether the Republican or the Democrat. That's why people say the parties are no different, because no matter who is elected in Maryland District 5, that person is going to vote to send 2,000-pound bombs to kill unlimited numbers of Palestinians and Lebanese. Y'all are going to vote for genocide, no matter whether you vote D or R. And that's the fault of all them damn candidates who knew they were not viable, knew they couldn't win, and refused to drop the hell out. If y'all do that in Florida 20, that's on you. If some of y'all better think seriously about whether you are the one that can win against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. All she needs is all of you to stay in, and you're going to do exactly what they did in Maryland 5.
That's why we need campaign finance laws.
We need people to be real.
But get rid of Citizens United, and they would have to drop out because they can't raise enough money.
Yeah. Let's also note that Maryland also just has bad vibes, man. One of our few, we don't lose often, but the guy who was running for Maryland State Senate President, Jason, running to reelect, got reelected because Marylanders are like, well, I guess I'll just keep the incumbent. Even though he won't let us gerrymander the state for the Democrats, we'll just keep him. The fisherman guy's not experienced. He's new. He's exciting. He would have been a great a great state senator who would have actually made change. But you're like, no, guess we're going to keep Ferguson. Come on, Maryland. Y'all let me down last night. New York was hype. New York was hype. Maryland was lame. Let me play one more clip before we get to our guest. The Speaker of the House and the minority leader in the House both had comment about the exciting results in New York, which really are not just a vibe, but a sea change in the way politics is going to work in the Democratic Party. Here's Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries.
The result of this latest, these primary elections for the Democrat Party. The headlines this morning say it all. I've got a collection of them here. Socialist earthquake, one of them said. Mamdani candidates sweep New York House races. These are socialists. These are Marxist in their ideology. Next headline, Mamdani hails new chapter for Democrats, one of the Chiron said this morning on the news. Hakeem Jeffries, my counterpart, the Democrat leader here in the House, was booed at some of these return parties last night. You saw that on social media and some of the clips. When he was being interviewed on the screen, the crowds in New York, in his own backyard, in the Bronx, in one of these districts, were booing him. And they shouted, "You're next." Hakeem Jeffries has a tall task ahead of him right now. He's got to go out and somehow make a credible pitch to Democrat establishment donors that that's a good national investment right now. That's a tough one to make. He has just proven that he cannot even hold the line in his own backyard. How can he possibly defend against the Marxist march around the country in these other districts? This is not your father's Democrat Party, as we say all the time. Last night, among the incumbents who lost, Adriano Espiat, who's chair of the Democrats' Hispanic Caucus, Dan Goldman, who was mocked for his Jewish heritage in a coffee shop in New York and maligned online because of that. The Democrat Party, the socialists, the Marxists, have nominated some of the most radical candidates to ever run for office, and they're running for Congress. The insurgent left is on the rise.
Ask about the results in New York last night. You said Mamdani was not the future of the party. Do you regret those statements?
I think the future of the party is diverse and is anchored in the fact that we've got candidates all across the country who are running to take back control of the House of Representatives so we can end the national nightmare that's taken place. Mayor Mamdani has been off to a great start as mayor. We have a good working relationship, and that will continue moving forward.
The NRCC dropped off flowers at your office this morning and condolences for the candidates that you endorsed that lost. Do you have any reaction to that?
The thing is that the NRCC and Republicans spent millions of dollars trying to pick Mike Lawler's opponent, and they failed miserably. And Kate Conley, who's now the Democratic nominee, is going to take Mike Lawler out in November, and we're going to take back control of the House of Representatives.
And then finally, do you have any comment? Are you concerned at all about a primary challenge in 2 years from a Mamdani endorsed candidate?
When you ask me a serious question, I'll give you a serious answer.
It sounds like a serious question to me. Joining me now is one of the three victors, one of the Mamdani three, Darializa, Avila, Chevalier, really one of the next political stars in the DSA and the Democratic Party. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, I want to first make sure you're okay. We were trying to have you on Monday night to preview the race, and I know that some incident happened. I just want to make sure that you're all right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Ended up being okay. It was a tense situation, but we got out of it safely.
Good. We were primarily concerned about that. So thank you for being here despite all of the drama. First of all, congrats, and tell me, in your view, what was the key to your victory over a very well-known and powerful Democratic incumbent?
You know, I think for so many New Yorkers, the issue here was having a representative who was present, right? Whether or not we had a representative who was fighting for them and whether we could see the results of that fight. And, you know, I would ask folks, has your life gotten better in the last 9 years of the leadership that we've had? And time and again, the answer was no. That the rent had continued to go up, that families were moving away, friends and loved ones were moving because they wanted children and couldn't afford to raise them in our district. And I think that was really a reflection of the failure of establishment leadership that we've had for too long, that told us that we should just accept crumbs, that told us that a politics of cynicism and complacency is all we would ever get. And so to be able to present a vision for something very different, something that is actually fighting for the things that New Yorkers need to lead dignified lives, I think resonated with so many people. And knowing that folks had come out in waves or in really historic numbers last year for the mayor, you know, that this is something that we could replicate here in this district because people were really hungry for a politic that is actually investing in hope and in life.
Some of the ways in which this has been covered, obviously, Jason D9, you put up all three of Mayor Mamdani's, the people he endorsed. And he stepped out there and endorsed yourself and two additional candidates, all of whom won, including our friend Brad Lander. And the way that the New York media has kind of played these victories is to say that Mayor Mamdani, harmed or went after his allies or burned Democratic allies, that he's building a power base. Yeah. What do you make of the reaction to you, the three of you winning?
You know, I think it's reflective of establishment leadership that has lacked vision for a really long time and has in many ways gotten us to this crisis that we're in, where we have fascism at our doorstep and we need to fight back on it. And I think folks see in the mayor someone who is fighting to make sure that government is actually responsive to the working people of our district, making sure that the people who make the city what it is can afford to stay here, and having that clarity around what is important to New Yorkers and the moral clarity around where our resources go, I think is really what has spoken to a lot of people in all three of our districts. And the fact that there was trust built between New Yorkers and the mayor, for the mayor to be able to say, hey, you trusted me and I trust these three, I think that had a huge impact for sure.
So do you think that Hakeem Jeffries should be concerned that the mayor, his next power move might be to endorse a challenger to Hakeem Jeffries?
You know, I think the importance of primaries is that it holds us all accountable, right? If we are not responding to the needs of our constituents or our voters, right, we need to actually have a process where voters can express that. And that's the importance of primaries. And I think anyone who takes a primary or an election for granted is putting themselves in a position of vulnerability. So, you know, I think that making sure that we are always delivering for New Yorkers is the priority. And I think that is what has been at the top of mind for the mayor. At the end of the day, the biggest promise we make is the ones that we make to voters. And that is the one that we should always be concerned with committing to.
I love that answer because I feel like people get in these seats and they think, oh, I own this seat now. It's like, no, you don't. Mm-hmm. You can be primary at any time. If you're not meeting the needs, you're going to get primary. And that's what should happen. The people own the seat.
And that's the point of democracy.
That is the point of democracy, ma'am. Can you see yourself voting for Hakeem Jeffries for speaker?
You know, I was really focused on my primary until just last night. But I do think that, you know, those are types of decisions that you have to really discuss with your community, right? Yeah. It's not a question about how any one individual feels personally. When you are working in a coalition with folks, I'm as an organizer, these are conversations that I'm having with the people who are impacted by these types of decisions, right? And so really looking forward to having those conversations. There's a lot that can change between then and now, and I want to be able to have a full and thoughtful discussion with the people who this would impact the most.
I'm not supposed to say I like somebody's answer, but I like that answer too, because I think people make it too personal. You know what I mean? It's not what do you want to, like you said, it's
Right.
do your the people who voted for you, this is what they want. DSA, has caught some strays from people like the former chair of the DNC, Jamie Harrison, went on a tweet rant about, he didn't name you all, but I feel like it was kind of about DSA and the fear that DSA is operating inside of the Democratic Party when have this other appellation. What do you feel about that? Is the point of the Democratic Socialists of America, is DSA's goal to change the Democratic Party or to, in a sense, replace the Democratic Party?
I think that for me, the debate is more around what is going to actually deliver for working people, right? And in a system where we do have a two-party system, where we do have Republicans and Democrats, I think it makes a lot of sense to use the tools that we have at our disposal to actually deliver for working people. And I think often we can get lost in the theory. And I say that as someone who studies theory, as someone who was working on my PhD, right? And really values theory. I think we need to also come into the praxis, right? What is actually going to deliver for people and make the lives of working people better? And I think what we're showing right now in yesterday's elections, for example, is that working people really want to see this type of politics, and that this is a vehicle for building that type of politic. And so I'm just deeply grateful to my coalition, everyone in my coalition, including DSA, because that is how we were able to deliver this message of a politic that we want to see in New York.
One of the things that when you look at DSA and sort of the demographics of it, it's considerably younger than the demographics of the Democratic Party. And this was a young people's movement. It was very clear. That's what drove Mom Donny's election. That's what drove your election. And also your fellow members of the Mom, we're calling them the Mom Donny 3, but for now, we'll just call you all individual. And I know that Gaza and the genocide is one of the big driving factors for how a lot of people are voting. I'm being honest. I'm honest about the fact that it's one of the ways that I'm really thinking about voting. Talk about that and your activism, and your activism even on the Columbia campus. That was a factor, right? People were chanting F AIPAC at some of these victory rallies, at Claire Valdez's rally. So talk about that, and what do you hope to change about the party or American politics relationship to AIPAC and to Israel? How would you want to change that as a congresswoman?
Yeah, I have been doing organizing around Palestine for a really long time. It's something that has deeply informed just my understanding of global systems, of our local politics, right? And seeing the way that so many of our social structures operate under a mentality of profit over people. And what we need is a mentality of people over profit, right? We need to make sure that we are centering human dignity at the heart of all of our politics. And I think, we've just forgotten that as a society, and we need to recenter human dignity at the heart of this. I think Ta-Nehisi Coates put it best when he said, if I can't trust you to stand against a genocide, how can I trust you to stand up for our democracy? And I think for so many people, that understanding has resonated, right? To know that we have people who can look at something as horrific as what's happening in Gaza and call it what it is, call it a genocide, and that you can trust them with other things. If you can trust them to understand the importance of human dignity and human life in a context like Israel-Palestine, then I can trust you, for example, on issues like healthcare. I can trust you on issues of dignity in the workplace. I can trust you on issues about, reproductive justice. And I think for far too long, we've had folks who will take money from a right-wing lobby like AIPAC and then say that they're progressive, but then when you look at the voting record, that doesn't match. And so I think it's time that we just have representatives who actually have moral clarity on a number of these issues and understand the connection, right? Because you can't tell me that there is no money for schools, there's no money to address childhood poverty, there's no money to address this housing crisis, while voting time and time again to send billions and billions of dollars to a war machine, to a country that's currently enacting a genocide.
And Darializa, Congresswoman Darializa, very, very soon. I don't know if you're going to do just going by the first name, but I think it is kind of, you should do that. I think that's a good branding just for your first name.
Thank you.
For those who have not been focused on New York City politics, as we are on this show, give us your 30-second bio. Who is Darializa Avila Chevalier?
I'm Darializa Avila Chevalier. I am the daughter of Dominican immigrants. I'm an Afro-Latina organizer. I am a proud UAW member and a working class New Yorker who just loves my city and has had to think about whether I can even afford to stay in it. Like so many New Yorkers in my district, I am fighting to make sure that my neighbors, my loved ones can stay here. And we launched this campaign to Congress because we want to make sure that New Yorkers can afford to stay, that we have the things that make our lives dignified, things like housing for all, things like making sure we're protecting our immigrant neighbors and abolishing ICE, and making sure that we're investing our tax dollars here in our babies and not in bombs that are being dropped abroad.
Well, congratulations, ma'am. Welcome to the United States Congress. I have no doubt that you are going to make positive change. We appreciate you making time to come on the Joy Reid Show. Come back anytime.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Well, there you have it, everyone. Change is coming, at least in New York. I don't know about Maryland. Maryland is like, no, we don't want change. We're old and we just want to drop bombs on Palestinians. That's what we want. And we want crypto and we want AI. We want AI factories to choke out our water supply. But we'll do it in a way that seems more liberal and genteel. But we don't want change. Change is too much. I feel like Jason, like Maryland is Thurston Howell III, and New York is Gilligan, the fun one. Like we're literally Thurston Howell III, and New York is Gilligan. If you want to put it in old, in an old TV frame. New York is the fun. And Jason and we're dual staties. We kind of go back and forth between different states, but New York is always going to be home. I was born in New York. And I'm like, this is what gives me New York FOMO. This is why I'll never let go of being a New Yorker, because New York is the fun state.
Well, you know what? We'll see how it goes.
New York is the fun. I mean, New York, I have serious New York FOMO right now because we, like I said, we go back and forth, but New York did what Maryland wouldn't, and what apparently Maryland couldn't. I am sad and disappointed about how kind of dull and, old fashioned Maryland is. Wake up, Maryland. And my last word I will say is, and I love Maryland. It's West Morristan. It's safe. It's blue. We like that. We know it's going to stay blue. We do know that. We know it's not going red. We know it's going to be blue. So it's nice and safe. We appreciate Maryland and we do love it. I'm having too much fun. I am having too much fun. I have to scold Maryland. I scold because I love. Scaring is scary. But I'm serious about you, Florida. Don't play with me, Florida. Don't make me make another Excel sheet. I don't like sitting and doing Excel. It's like back when I was an administrative assistant. Y'all made me go back in time like I was an administrative assistant. Let's quickly, before we go, instead of having a moment, because I'm so mad about Maryland electing the AIPAC guy, I'm now not going to do a moment of joy. We're going to do a moment of, huh? So our moment of, huh? That we're doing tonight, is the latest story time with Usha Vance, our second lady. Take a listen and see if you notice anything. Take a look.
Hello, I'm Usha Vance, and welcome back to Storytime with the Second Lady. I'm so excited to enjoy another great story together, because when we read, we grow. I know from personal experience that today's special reader loves to read to kids. That's because I see him read books to our own kids every day. That's right, today's special reader is my husband, Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. Thanks for joining us today, honey.
Of course, good to see you.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Tap, tap. Hey, buddy. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, buddy. Like, y'all are married? That is the least amount of chemistry I think I've ever seen between a couple that is actually married to each other. Like, that was a hey, buddy tap. I mean, clearly you guys are having marital relations because you got her pregnant. So she's big with child. So obviously there's something going on there, but damn. Because you know what? The reason that it's so weird is it's not as if JD is not capable of showing sort of like warm, across the genders affection. Like, it's not like we've not seen him in a moment where it felt like he was like chemistrying, even though he has negative charisma, y'all. He has zero charisma. He's not a nice person. He comes across as a real horse's ass most of the time. He says jerky things like women are, cat ladies with blah, blah. So he's not like a nice guy, but at least like show some charisma towards your woman. I mean, damn. Because Jason, can you show this? Because the E2, it's like there was a different vibe here. Can we see E2? And it goes, I mean, there was a whole head rub. There was like a whole caress. And the head was rubbed and things. Remember, we had to have Miss Maddie J come on and talk about it. Because it was a lot more like, ooh. You know what I'm saying? But this was a little, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. So it's not a moment of joy. It's a moment of, huh? What their eyes? Like, what is this? What type of relationship this? What type of relationship this? That don't look right, man. It don't look right to me, man.
Do you believe somebody in the chat literally said, Jason, take note? Well, what kind of shade is that? Like, I'm ever going to tap your neck.
Can you imagine? If Jason said, hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy, let me slap you on your shoulder. How you doing,
How
sister?
you doing?
I ain't seen you in about, 2 weeks? Hey, girl. Not even like say, hey, girl, come and bring that ass over.
And then it got even weirder when he
really?
actually started reading the book. I didn't even play more of it because it's like, you read to your kids. Your kids are probably under the covers like, please don't read to me anymore, Daddy. I don't like you. It's weird. It's weird. Because there was no like, you know what I mean? All this was happening. Like, anyway, no, just saying. It was cringe. It was cringy and weird. That's the guy who is apparently the heir apparent to Donald Trump. Good luck, America. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all watching the show. Thanks to all of our guests. Congratulations again to Darializa and to all of the candidates who got elected. Claire Valdez, of course, the great Brad Lander, our buddy. Thank you to Mary Trump and to also the great team who are trying to hold that lawyer of Donald Trump that's pretending like he's the attorney general accountable. We love accountability. See you guys on Fridays, the Joy Reid Show. Bye, buddies.
Getting back to the basics, grassroots level. Let me dig a little deeper with the shovel. Plenty can't tell the forest from the trees, and I'm hard to detect, like a black hole in the dark. Injustice anywhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. Let me make this clear, I got a bone to pick, and I'll never fear the threat of poverty. They don't want to talk about it, they rather party, so I'm a real talk about it, for sure.